Richard Moore, the great Richard Moore, is with us today here on Barcelona Metropolitan. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Victor. So nice. Every time I see you, I always love it. What is it? 5 years now. I've known you, and it's even more possibly. And it's just always great energy when I'm around you, warmth and hospitality, and I always appreciate it. So nice to be here and share some time with you.
Okay, I had a scheduled plan to talk to you about some questions that I get about the magic that you do with LinkedIn, with social media. Funnel strategies, creating value. But I'm kind of going through something now. And it's quite emotional for me. But also I think it adds real value. It's cathartic. And it's more the, I guess we can frame it as the concept of maybe losing someone you love.
Yes.
And have you been through something like this recently by any chance?
Yeah, and sadly, it's the kind of thing you can't dodge, isn't it? As you get older, and I was very fortunate. I made it as far as my early 30s, having lost really no one dear, and then I lost my grandmother, who was incredibly close to me, and my mother in the same year in 2012, and then there's been a few other things since, a little less close. So I know how hard that is. And although it is of no comfort at the time, in the near future, you start realizing the power of loss in a positive sense. I know I'm always the optimist, but it really gave me a huge gift, certainly losing my mother, a huge gift of perspective on what truly matters. And it reminds you to maintain a sense of soul about why you do the things you do, rather than more base reasons for things. And so, yeah, I'm pleased to be able to support you here. This is obviously incredibly raw, and so I don't want to give you trite platitudes, because that won't necessarily be helpful, but hopefully we can give value to those listening, and I'm sure it will resonate with many people what you're going through as well.
I'm not a particularly religious person, but I do think that there is a logic and there are powers out there that I just don't think the major religions of today have really grasped it all for me. They don't convince me, but I can't believe that everything that we're going through isn't somehow, I wouldn't say preordained, but there's a method to the madness that we just don't really understand the powers that are acting.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about this person, funny enough, on Wednesday. I had a really powerful meeting at 7:30 in the morning. I'm a coach or a mentor to this phenomenal woman who flew over from Lithuania. We were chatting at 7:30 in the morning, and we did it on Tuesday. We did it again on Wednesday. And as I was leaving on Wednesday, I was thinking about this person who just passed away. And I was thinking, I got to call him.
Right.
And because I'm actually quite lucky, Richard.
Right.
This person, I had a chance to go see him after not seeing him after maybe 25 or maybe even 30 years.
Wow.
And he had such an impact on my life, and I had not had a chance to tell him that. And I lost my mom in September.
Okay.
So, getting emotional here.
And that's allowed, and that's how it should be. And there should be no avoidance of it, in my opinion, because this stuff matters more than all of it.
But learning the lessons of having, I guess, lost my mom. Sorry, Richard.
It's okay. Please don't apologize.
I made sure I took the opportunity to visit this person and talk about, or let him know, the influence he had in my life and in the values and wanting to be a person that was perhaps more incongruent with his values.
Yes.
As I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And, I was talking about, I don't know, about mysticism or whatever. As I was walking, after I finished this interview on Wednesday morning, I was walking by a clinic. And because he was a pediatrician.
Okay.
And I remember somebody asked me this morning, one of my colleagues, what is it that I guess my fondest memory. And it was that I committed some crimes with him.
Really? Are we about to get you arrested live here, Victor? Or
No.
Not. What's the scale of the misdemeanors then?
I'll put it in perspective, but
good.
No, I was a child actually, and he used me.
Careful.
Because he was a pediatrician. He worked at a public hospital.
Right.
And because he was destitute himself.
Right.
He lived to serve others. And he worked at a public hospital. And what he had me do is he would fill I used to have like backpacks. Right. And he would pack it with drugs and with medicine and with medical supplies. And I would walk by security.
Wow.
They never thought this, a little kid with backpacks would ever have anything stealing from the hospital. And, I would go back to his home, and not always, but very often he'd have a line of people waiting to see him.
Really?
And, he lived in a pretty rough area of, I'm trying to be discreet, of the city where he lived.
Right.
And the people who wanted to have him, needed his services, they were too poor. All of them were poor.
Right.
Most of them highly uneducated, and so didn't have the means to answer questions or let alone fill in forms that the hospital would require for them to get properly, diagnosed.
But still in need. That's the crucial part.
Desperately still in need. And so he would take some of this stuff, and he was poor himself because everything that he made, he gave away.
Yes.
And so he would take my memories. He would take the stuff that we kind of, steal. There's no other way. We stole it. And then,
but this is real Robin Hood. This is a real Robin Hood crime, isn't it? Though, if you think about it,
completely.
Yeah.
No, he had this very modest, humble home, and it was packed. It was messy. It was dirty, except for the clinical area. Everything else were just like boxes of stuff that people would need.
Yes.
And all these people, they couldn't pay him back. They had nothing to pay with.
Yes.
Until they would have, literally, it's that story, they would come with eggs and chickens and dogs in a pig. They paid him. I remember one time they brought this giant pig in the middle of a very large city. He did have a home, and it had a patio, which most people in a big city don't have the comfort.
No, it's true.
They don't have the ability to have it. And all of a sudden, I think he had chickens, ducks. And I was like, what the hell?
They turned his house into a farm in Thanks. That's
in the middle of a city. And then he said, I love pigs, but now I can't eat it. It has a name. So they kept it. And the thing was huge.
Wow. Okay. But, it's so powerful. And you can see the gratitude there in fact, the gestures, pigs included, are what they could give. And despite the picture you painted, it's like it's a place that made a difference clearly and had impact on people. And no matter how small, it's just so powerful to do that. And it's just really, really inspiring. And it reminds us that I've thought of this thing many times over many years, which is if you can, you should, in the sense of helping people, and for instance, I mean, it's hardly in the same ballpark, but you and I first connected on one of my events I did in Barcelona. And that's a perfect example of, well, I could pocket a few €100 in ticket money and then, hey, look at me, I made a bit more money today. But like, if you're okay, why isn't that going to better use? And so that went to a charity we were working with. And so I just think if you can, you should. And it should be woven into what we do each day, is helping others, even if it's a pro bono bit of value, or if it's giving just a little bit to charity here and there. It just all makes a difference. And it doesn't have to be huge sums to make a difference, as I've learned. And, you know, you might think, oh, it's not going to have much impact giving someone the drugs they need or whatever. And that's just one person being helped. But consider the difference in that person's life to where it would have been otherwise. And it's just, it's so noble. And I think it's too easy to get, especially in the world we're in nowadays, to get sucked into focus on the self, isn't it? And what a wonderful reminder that there's more to it than that.
Yeah, and you hit a nerve there, because I've had some considerable success in my career in doing different things, launching different companies. But a lot of people don't know that I think I missed out totally in my calling for life.
Right.
I totally wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
And which is why I tend to try to help organizations that have something to do with, you know, clinical cancer research.
Yeah.
Something that has to do with medicine. And I've spent many years kind of compensating for that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Not just raising money for good organizations, but, you know, I worked at 3 different hospitals.
Right.
In shock trauma units for 4 years, 3 different ones. So that's 12 years right there. I could have gotten my medical degree.
Yeah, exactly. But that's your way of being close to it. And how is that not helping in that space, in that industry? It's still powerful. Yeah.
I know that my interest came because of him.
Really?
Oh, completely. And I remember vividly, because the guy was just an amazing human being. You know, he lived to serve others, but he was also, and it tends to be the case, as a great human person.
Yes.
He was literally a walking encyclopedia of jokes and anecdotes.
Yes.
To lift the spirits of anyone at any time. And so, in addition to my capers with him committing a minor theft from hospitals, he used to also explain to me that, you know, when he was younger and still trying to get his medical degree, he was kind of a refugee from a Central American country.
Right.
He was one of 10 children, so they were poor,
right.
And they left trying to figure out what to do with their life. And when he was going through medical school, neither him nor anybody else that was studying with him, they didn't have any money.
Yes.
So they needed to learn about the human body. And something he told me that was really just, I didn't know what to do with it at the time because I was thoroughly disgusted with it. But he got a job at a cemetery.
Right. Okay.
He got to dig, you know, the holes and ditches.
Yes.
And he and his friends, because they were all medical students,
yeah,
they needed to be able to understand the bones and the body structures and so forth. So they got themselves jobs where they had access to cadavers, and they would go and they would have this like meeting. It was a marketplace of medical students that would trade a femur for a forearm.
Oh, wow. Really? Hey, that's commitment. I'm impressed. There's something Da Vinci about that, isn't there? He did something similar to learn about the body. He was like, I'm going to go and like find morgues and things like that and engage it. Wow, that's great commitment. I'm not surprised you were a bit disgusted at the time. My goodness.
Some things I'm thinking now I'm accusing this poor guy of like violating certain laws and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, as he was passing away, I spent the entire day on Wednesday thinking, I got to call, see how he's doing.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't at the end of the night. I was really annoyed with myself for not having done it.
Yeah.
And then I got the news just over an hour ago.
Yeah.
But I'm really thankful that I got a chance to kind of share with him. I spent almost a week with him.
Yeah, that's huge.
Not long ago, and he had already had his last rites administered twice.
Wow.
In the last year, and he kept saying, "I'm not ready to go."
Yeah.
I still have more things I got to do. The guy's 89 years old.
Yeah.
Still contributing, helping where he could, and we have all these things available to us, and we don't avail of ourselves of, I guess, the opportunities that we get on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I wanted to do is, I met you. I think it was Dot Lung who introduced us.
That's right. Yes. Back in
when you came here to Barcelona, and you've always been generating so much value. Not just through your courses and your advice on how to be more effective on Facebook and on LinkedIn, but just you always transmit optimism, power, practical, hands-on utility, and so I've always admired this from you.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. And then, I it's interesting because it's born from a place of hurt, and it's born from a place of difficult times, and I wasn't always like that, and it is through difficult things happening to us that hopefully we take the right path as a result. And what's interesting, what you've reflected on, is not just seeing someone who means a lot to you, but saying something as well. That's action there. And so, for instance, knowing when my mother was passing, which was a 2-year process with the cancer, in the last month, knowing that was happening, it's one thing to be near them and to care for them and to see them the last times, but it's also important, I think, to say the words to them that you need to say to comfort them, but also it's comfortable for you because you would regret not saying these things otherwise when you then no longer can have the chance to do it. And I think what stems from losing someone close and having a sense of real perspective on what things really matter is it really did make me realize how fragile it all is, and how if you've got the facility to do so, you must do things for others, because it really is profound, the impact and the positivity it can make on someone's life. So, my mother was stubbornly not going into care, and so we had someone living with her at one point to kind of care for her whilst she was starting to struggle, and it would be all too easy just to give her a call or pop in once every couple of weeks because I've got to live my life. But I think I started realizing at that point that it wasn't just about me. It was about what gives her a glimmer of light that day. And so it's interesting that it really had an effect on me. And so I think that was this, I'm sure I was, kind of this way inclined to begin with, but I really, really did help me dial in that just giving something to others doesn't always have to result in karma and something in return. It's actually that it's genuinely really lovely to know that someone's having a brighter day as a result of something you've done. But then perversely, it does make you feel good. It's no better feeling. It's better than money and so on. It's no better feeling than knowing that someone is now having a better day because of something you've done. And that's addictive, in my opinion, when you do it right with no agenda. And it takes learning that if you just try and remove agenda, which is often this is extension of like having a bit of ego and like, how do I self-serve? When you remove that and just say to yourself, like, let's be a bit more mindful and embrace that it's a warm feeling to help someone else and see how they improve because you've done something for them with no agenda. It's a really wonderful thing to do, and long may it continue. What's nice about it is there is that secondary effect of people think fondly of you, but it should never be the primary reason for it. And I just think that the moment you're okay, the moment you're okay, you're on a level-ish plane yourself, you can put food in your mouth, and and when you learn really I'm in a good place, I'm very privileged. It's got to be like, well, what do I do for other people? This in turn, I must add, this is what I teach my daughters, because I've said, we're very open with them about how privileged they are. We're educated, we are white, we are in the UK, we could be in wholly different circumstances. So I've got quite the leg up before I even start doing anything. And, speaking to my daughter, so I was raised by a single mum. I have 2 sisters, and now I've got 2 daughters. So I'm a champion of opportunities for women as well. And what's fascinating, that's actually, I think, how we first connected with the first charity. What's fascinating, though, is that for all the difficulties and hurdles that women are up against, I've still told my daughters that you're going to encounter those things, but you are also still incredibly lucky to be, or unfortunate to be where you are. And this is the crucial lesson is you better make use of it, because it's quite abhorrent to be in a good place and not give a shit about other people. That's actually quite despicable, in my opinion. And if we're doing all right and we're privileged and we're winning without even trying that hard by comparison to other people who have to fight to have some kind of measly existence, then it is not cool to wholly take and not give back. So I think it needs, like I said, it needs to be woven into how we are daily. Like, where's the thing you did for someone else? In the same way as I say, where's your next deal, or when's my lunch happening? It should also be like, what's the thing I did today for someone else? I think that's the ethos I like to live by. And I know that can sound cute, but like, it's easy to say stuff like that, but going to do it is what it's all about. I think like actions always mean so much. So yeah, I appreciate what you're saying there.
Yeah, and a few things you resonated with me there. For I guess 7 years, I was at the Ronald McDonald House here in Barcelona.
Yeah,
and I was vice president for a while there, and I used to dedicate 2 or 3 days a week. I had the fortune to be able to do that. Things were going okay for me in other aspects of life, which allowed me to dedicate time. And actually, it was very empowering for me to go and spend between, I don't know, 16 to 24 hours a week with this great charity organization, because I would go and I'd be around all these amazing people. And all these little kids they were bald with needles and tracks and all kinds of stuff in their arms, because at the very tender young age they've been diagnosed. I'd say about 70% of the kids that were in our care, they had cancer. Most of them had leukemia. And so I'm sitting there watching children fight literally for their lives. And their families were there. And Richard, it has this amazing ability to refocus or remind yourself of how fragile, the fragility of life, and how privileged one is when you have health. Or how quickly it can be taken away, and you have this great life, and all of a sudden somebody you care about is diagnosed with something pretty serious. Wow, your world gets transformed upside down in a heartbeat.
Rapid reprioritization of stuff, isn't it?
That's exactly what it was.
Things change so rapidly. Yeah.
And I met so many people say, I don't know how you do it. You go and you see, I was surrounded by death. It was unfortunately not common, but it happened regularly. And some people, they were coming to us and that maybe they should have been in palliative care, but they're fighting for one last chance. And we had so many great stories of people who had been written off.
Yeah.
And they come back. For me, it was incredibly empowering, not because I was watching children and their parents fighting for their life. It was empowering because I knew that in this reprioritization that you just referred to, how petty and how small some challenges in my life that I thought were big all of a sudden become puny if I'm watching other people literally fight for something much more challenging, much bigger. And to be around them was actually really, really empowering for me. And so I guess when I did go to work, I was in these fantastic spirits and fully more present to the abundance that I already had, and perhaps a need to try to help make or give my life a little bit more meaning in whatever way that might mean. Be better husband, better father, better member of society. And when I didn't really appreciate the value of contributing in a way that you're just saying without agenda, because all the time that I was there was, it's just 100% volunteer, really was, and how empowering it can be. So I was always encouraging people, go, and whether it's this or some other organization, just give. You're going to be shocked at how much more you get in return. And it could be literally financially as well if you take it the right way to try to help donate things. A lot of people started being generous with me because of work I was doing that was, I would say, selfless, but it wasn't that selfish. It was a bit, it was a boost to the ego to try to help other people win the battles that they were in. I don't know if this makes any sense.
Victor, my connection's dropping, so I think I've lost you there. I think I'm coming back a bit. So I'm glad the audience can hear you, but I'm afraid I can't.
Oh no. Okay.
We're back. We're back. There we are.
Okay, so I don't know where I lost you there, but
that's fine. I think I was. Yeah, I'm just thinking it's interesting seeing things through these eyes, and what really is interesting as well is that these kind of environments just bring people together, and there's this commonality through often a lot of pain and things like that, and often a lot of hope and so on. But it's amazing how it bonds people together, and humans are really well hardwired to come together when things are, not going well. But I just think we get micro experiences through our lives of what that might be like. The finality of like, this illness is going to take me and I can't do anything about it, is something that for most of us listening to this, we're fortunate enough to have probably not experienced. You get micro doses of it when you're really ill though. So I don't know, if you have a virus and you're throwing up lots and it's going to last you 4 days and you feel dreadful, you have those moments where you're like, oh, I would give anything to not feel because nausea is horrible. Like I'd feel anything to not feel nausea right now. And it's those moments where you should perhaps reflect on the immense good fortune you have that you'll probably be recovering in a few days' time. And I think what's interesting is that we can apply a reframe to this, which is good. I should be experiencing this. Sounds perverse, and at the time it might not feel like it helps, but it's a really good way to look at it. It's good that I experience this because this is grounding me and reminding of me. It's like a little reminder of what could happen, and also crucially what other people are going through as well. But you get to come out of it. And it's like, you see so many films and there's so many stories and so on where someone gets that second chance. Like a Hollywood movie, they get taken to heaven, they died, but then they get that second chance to come back to earth, and they're so reformed and changed. But when we come out of illness, and it might just be flu or something after a few days, we come out of illness and we just crack on like nothing happened. It was an opportunity right there to see things differently. 2018, so about a year before I met you, I had major surgery to remove a lump on in my gut, and there was discussion of it. I had like pamphlets to read about cancer and things like that, and with the echoes of my mum passing away 6 years earlier, and being a dad as well, I was like, this could be really bad. So you have those discussions, and it was something like that was like, you're lying in the hospital bed after surgery. I remember thinking like, this sucks so much, and I'm in pain. I'm on morphine, and I'm going like, I've got tubes coming out of my stomach and things like that, and I've been cut open, and God knows what's happened because I'm delirious right now. But I'm trying to like recognize that actually, I came through, and I'll probably mend, and it'll probably be okay. But like going into that, I was like, this could be really bad. This could be something that takes me. So have I said the things I need to say? And it's amazing how those moments, they are moments across the whole life, help you pivot a bit more. But we should really be looking all the time for like, are we saying the right things to the right people, or are we living, I'm invoking Seneca here, are we living like we're immortal and have all the time in the world, and when in fact, life is short and we need to make the most of it, and do and act a bit more like we are immortal. That doesn't mean being down in the dumps about losing it all, but it means celebrating the moments rather than always looking to somewhere else where we want to go. I think it's really powerful. On the Shortness of Life is the most important book anyone should own, in my opinion, by Seneca. It really, when I first read that book, I was like, that is so important. We treasure money far more than the time we have, and it's things like material things, and it's really crucial to recognize what matters more. And like I say, when you're feeling rubbish, when you're feeling ill and awful, suddenly other things just don't matter as much, and we need to use that as an opportunity for to be a lesson. I really believe that. And so it's interesting, your mother passing in September clearly had some impetus with you to reach out to your friend as well, and you seem very pleased that you went and did that.
Yeah, and I'm having, it's very cathartic right now chatting with you. But one of the things that what happened in September, I hadn't seen my mother basically in 5 years because of COVID, right, and several other things that were going on, and so I kept wanting to go and see her. One of the great things about the technology now, you can be on the other side of the planet and you can still be able to connect.
Exactly.
And still, I felt like I wasn't talking to her enough. But I got very lucky in the sense that I got a call. My sister took my mom to the hospital. She was diagnosed with several different things. It just kept getting worse and worse in the period of like 3 days. And finally, on the third day, they told us that she was terminal. She had like 3 to 6 months left to live.
Right.
And the family thought, well, this is horrible news. And I was thinking, well, you should start planning to come see my mom. We'll all be together. She just got this, this terrible news. I don't even know if they had told the news to my mom. They told it to my sister.
Right.
And we're all separated. My family's in all across the United States. I'm in Europe, and I got a call from my niece's husband. I call him my nephew, and he said, "I don't care what everybody's saying." He said, "Uncle Vic, you got to get here."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, okay, I'll go on Saturday." This is a Wednesday, and I said, "I'm planning to go on Saturday." And he said, "Okay, that's good news. Well, she's only got 3 to 6 months, probably on the longer side, but that's what the doctors told us anyway."
Yeah.
And Jason called me and he said, "No, get here now."
Yes.
So I went. That was Wednesday. It was late in the evening. It was 11 o'clock at night. So basically, on Thursday, my daughters, when they found out, they bought tickets.
Right.
My older daughter bought a ticket for her younger sister and for me. And I said, "I can't take that ticket. I have commitments I got to do." And she's like, "No, Daddy, come as soon as you can." I'm like, "All right." I'm feeling guilty. I'm getting guilted by my own daughter. And I said, "Okay." So I went. I couldn't get it for Thursday. She went before me. I couldn't get it for Thursday, so I went Friday.
Right.
Make it short, my mom died Tuesday.
Wow. So, okay.
Really fast. And, I went. And since I'm the one who's furthest distance-wise, I basically spent my mom's last 4 days with her 24 hours a day in the hospital. And I got this really great advice from a friend here in Barcelona. She helps people deal with planning for death. You know,
Right.
she calls it planning your exit strategy,
Right.
your final exit strategy. And she's like, when people are sick and they're in the hospital and they can't really speak for herself. My mom was in a pretty bad situation, so she was having a hard time speaking. She didn't have a whole lot of moments of lucidity. And she goes, people think that they talk to them, but they don't listen to them.
Right.
And she said, ask your mom what she wants. Your sister's taking care of her with the best of intentions. The doctors are taking care of her. All these people think they're doing things. She's not an idiot. She's a grown woman who has all kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
She may not be able to articulate them now, but trust me, she'll get to communicate it.
Mm.
And so she was having a really hard time speaking.
Right.
And I whispered in her ear, is there anything you want? And she told me to come close. And she said, the food sucks. Give me a donut. and a facial massage.
Right.
My mom was always kind of joking.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was like, fuck it. I'm going to get her a donut and a facial massage.
Absolutely.
And I went across the street, and there's this big, giant place called Krispy Kreme. I don't know if you have it in the UK.
We do.
Giant Krispy Kreme. I've never seen something that big before. And so I got her donuts, and I gave her a massage. And everybody, that was the last thing I was expecting my mom to say, because
yeah,
I didn't think she was a huge donut person, but that's what she wanted. The food sucks here. Please get me a donut, and I want a facial massage. So
I love it. Do you know, I'm smiling because my mother did the same thing. She said, do you know what I want? I really just want a McDonald's cheeseburger. I just want a cheeseburger. And it's so funny that the reaction, this is when she was still at home, the reaction was, but that's like really unhealthy. And she's like, hello. And so it was just brilliant. It was such a wonderful moment and she was the same as like, really you? And she's like, just could murder a McDonald's burger right now and just get me on. And we're like, go for it. And it's those little things that what we're talking about, is like bringing some light into the day and giving them the thing they want, rather than just, it doesn't have to be awful moments. It can be something quite momentary that can be really cherished by them. What a nice thing to have done for her. And that really lifted her at that moment.
Oh, she was so happy after that. And, even like just not even 9 months before, we had a really weird incident. My mom, she was in a bad mood. She's starting to kind of slip into dementia. And she told my sister, I'm going to go take a shower. I don't want any crap from the family. Just leave me alone for the next 2 hours. I'm going to go into the bathtub. My sister had this big jacuzzi.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Don't come in. I don't care if the world dies while I'm in the shower. Just leave me alone.
The gift is being
left. She's in one of these moods. Just okay. Yeah. So she went. My sister was leaving her alone. And my sister was like, she was taking a long time. I was like, I don't want to go in there. She was very clear. She wants she wants her personal time.
Yeah.
And my mom wasn't even answering. So then my sister went in and she found her underneath the water. Apparently she had drowned.
Okay.
And because my mom gave her strict instructions, do not come for me, they were leaving her alone.
Yeah.
And they don't know how long she was underwater.
Okay.
So my sister started screaming. Her son, my nephew, went running up to pick my mom out of the water. They called the ambulance. Luckily, the ambulance was actually very close at that moment.
Yeah.
They stopped by within a few minutes, and then they rushed her out to the emergency room. And my sister at the time was actually kind of being a nanny and babysitting a bunch of kids.
Yes.
And so she couldn't leave and take a bunch of very young kids in her car.
No.
She didn't have enough car seats for all these baby kids, so she was stuck. She didn't know what to do. And finally, when she got to the hospital and she's terrified, she gets to the trauma unit. And this is one of the hospitals that I worked at for 4 years. She didn't know how to get and find my sister or my mom. And finally, she walks in, and my mom's surrounded by these young. It's a teaching hospital, so they have these young medical doctors and interns. Yeah. And My mom was like, "Look at all these handsome men." Right? And my mom's joking around. She's got all these tubes. She's looking at her tubes in her stomach and her neck and her arms. She's like, "What happened?" The last time I was in the hospital with tubes in my arms, I had a baby. Did somebody get me pregnant?
Oh, it's so nice when the humor's still there. Absolutely amazing. Oh, what a woman. What a woman.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about her. She's joking to make us all feel better.
Yeah. Oh, it really does. And that's so, it's just amazing when they can still do that and recognize that there's, you know, that the people around them would really benefit from that as well. I feel like I want to spend the whole day with you and share these stories. I know I need to go soon, but I just wanted to ask, this doesn't have to be full of lessons necessarily, but in light of what you've experienced this morning, is there anything that, because, you know, the world is small, there's possibly people watching this right now who are going through something like this, or indeed may not realize that just around the corner is something like this about to happen to them. Given the state, given the kind of the where you are right now, and given it's just happened, it would be crazy to not ask if there's any advice or suggestions or something to bear in mind that you could share with everyone.
Well, one thing comes to mind is the obvious things. Don't wait. You have something to say it. You realize very quickly such, you know, petty squabbles really just devour relationships for years, and then sometimes you want to fix it and you only have a short period of time left. Don't wait too long. And sometimes certain relationships are not recoverable and maybe not worth being recovered, but be present with that too.
Yes.
And the other thing, Richard, as an expat, I was talking to this lady who gave me this advice. We don't have discussions about end of life planning. And sometimes we think that we've discussed it, but does your family or do your loved ones know what you want having to do with your body? Do you want to donate it to science? Do you want to do what kind of burial? If you're in another country, do you want to be sent back to your country?
Yeah.
Have you discussed it with your friends? And don't make them, in addition to the big costs that a funeral can have, it can be insanely expensive. Don't make them make hard decisions that you wouldn't want anyway. And sometimes they fight over with the best of intentions, let alone sometimes when there's not the best of intentions.
Yeah.
Give the end of life planning it deserves. It's your as your final exit. Give it let the person pass away in or yourself sometimes pass away in dignity.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of the bigger, I guess, challenges that the life has in store for you. Just go after them.
Yeah.
The bigger ones are not as big as you think they are. They're more tackleable. They're more survivable than you might think.
Yeah.
And sometimes we really do create problems that are small in our own heads. They're actually, and they are pretty puny. When you start to think about the bigger challenges and stuff that life has in store, and just don't waste time.
So true.
That's what I love about your sessions, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Facebook, or how to generate revenue. It's not just about making money and have material wealth. It's about feeling great about yourself and being able to contribute to society.
Yeah, it can really be developmental up here, and it can give you, it should never just be about the money. It should be about showing yourself there's a potential you can reach, and many other things along those lines as well. Thank you so much for sharing. We both of us didn't know how this would go 45 minutes ago. So I hope this was worth it. It feels like it was.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, maybe coming back at another time, maybe in a week or so, we can talk about strategies that make other people have a great life, not unlike the ones that you and I seem to be lucky enough to have. But, you know, the harder you work, the luckier you get. But
yeah, it's funny that I totally agree. If you'll have me again, happy to. And it's been really a privilege to be able to help or have the session with you. And thanks for sharing it, because these kind of things help ground, no doubt, the audience and me as well. So if I can be in any support, then that means a lot to me as well. So thanks a lot.
Lots of love, brother. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, man. I'll speak to you soon.
Fantastic weekend.
And you. Best of wishes.